Hello and welcome back. In our previous installment, we had a look at the V2 page builder and the different controls that are available in this builder and how they have been applied to my online store. Now today we get to see how these controls are configured. The first thing I want to say is that controls have unique properties and then they also share common properties. We'll look at all the common properties in the next installment. For this video, we are going to focus simply on how to get the control configured to perform its unique function. We have a couple of controls to get through today, so if you haven't watched the previous video of control demonstration, I strongly recommend you do that because this video is just going to follow on from there. So before we saw the controls applied to the online store, and now I'm bringing you to the page designer to show you these same controls and their different configuration settings. We'll follow the same order as before, and so the first property we looked at was the product carousel. We see it over here in the toolbox. Now you need to drop your control onto a column. And then the two unique properties for this control is design and items source. All the other properties you see here are common properties and we'll look at these in the next installment. When I click on design, you'll see that there's actually a whole subset of properties relating to the design of this control. In the interest of time, I'll just speak to the most used properties. So I'm going to skip the first few and then we get to the text option. This is where you can choose whether you want to display the product's title or price or description or whatever it may be down below or on top. To set whether it should be below and top, we use the text location. The other property that you may want to know about is the ability to show this text either always by default or only when the user hovers over the area. Apart from this, there's a couple of formatting options and then we reach the items source. You can configure the items source by clicking over here, and this will allow you to filter the list of products that will be returned by this product carousel. And this screen should look fairly familiar to you. It is very similar to the one we have in the POS when we filter for products. And then the other setting that is useful here is to be able to specify how many items should be returned by the product carousel. In my case, I've limited to the first 12. Next up, we're going to move over to the contacts page. Here we have the map, and it only has this one unique property, and this is where we can specify the address for the map to point to. Next up, we've got the text box. It has no unique properties and you can simply add text by double clicking and inserting the text in line. Immediately below the text box, we find the link control. And this has one unique property where we configure the link to a URL. To do that, you click configure, you provide a text value. This is the text that you'll see on the web page. You capture the URL that you're going to point to, and then you give it an SEO title. You can also choose whether the link should be displayed vertically or horizontally. The last control on this page is the button. Now, although the button doesn't have a unique property per se, the property that does give it its purpose is actions. Actions allows you to navigate to another link, and you can configure that link over here. The options that you can navigate to is the home page, a specific product, an existing navigation link, or a custom URL. You can then also choose whether this link that you are pointing to should open up in the current tab or in a new tab. Now let's move over to the designer category. The next control that we haven't spoken about yet is the slideshow control. This control configures slightly differently. As you see, we have a plus sign over here, and when I click it, I can add more slides to the slideshow. Now, the way I've configured the existing slides is by going to the background property and selecting an image from the image picker. There, that's fairly straightforward. The other thing that you can do is to actually go to the toolbox and select a control to drop onto the slideshow. For example, you could take the map or a text box or a button, whatever it may be, and you can drop it there, and that will be included in your slideshow. To delete a slide, simply click on the slide of your choice and then go over to the right-click actions for the slide and choose delete slide. Do be careful that you don't accidentally delete the entire slideshow. Moving on from here, we'll make a quick stop by the divider control. Now this control has a property for configuration right on top, and this is where you would set the width and color of the two dividing bars. Scrolling down, we find the product list control. This is very similar in a way to the product carousel. Again, it's just a control that will return a result set of products. This result set, if you look at the data source, can be filtered by product type, category, materials, or designer. Other settings that are unique to this control are design settings. And what we have here is the gallery type. This will be a gallery and not a carousel. And you can filter the result set even further by choosing whether all products should be returned or only diamonds and gemstones. Whatever you choose here, the data source will be applied to that selection. You can also specify how many products should be returned per row. And when you're already familiar with these options, to display text beneath or below each product. It can show the price, title, description, and so on. These are just formatting options, which we won't discuss at the moment. Now, as I've mentioned before, if you're going to be using the product list control, you need to have another page where the page details control has been dropped. This is really simple. You just need to take the control from the toolbox over here and drop it onto a column. You don't need to configure it. Once you've clicked on a product from the list view, it will send through the product ID to this page and the details will just be loaded for you. Also make sure that you go to page management over here and set the target built-in page for this page to product details page. Moving on, the last control we're going to look at is the related products view. By now you'll be familiar with the design settings for a product carousel or product gallery. But here we are. This is going to be a simple carousel. And you can set how many products you want to have returned per row. You can choose a text option. And then just some of the other formatting options that we've seen before. You'll notice that this control doesn't have a source property. And that's because this control gets populated by an algorithm that determines which products are related or similar to the product loaded in the product details view. Okay, so that's it then for control configuration. In the next installment, we'll speak to some of the common properties and right-click options that are available across the board.